You join me here for the Classic Car Auctions preview. This is the NEC. Over there is the Practical Classics Restoration Show, but we've got a two-day auction taking place here on the Saturday and Sunday. If you're watching this on the day this video lands, it's Friday, the 21st of March, and that is viewing day for what is 170 car lots that are going to be going under the hammer. I'm Jonny Smith. I've got my post-its in my catalogue, and I'm not afraid to have a whip round and show you my dozen or so favourite cars that are going on sale. Let's go. Right, before we look at the cars, a little bit of housekeeping. Admission to this auction is via catalogue. Catalogue costs £10. It admits 2 people, so then you can go and have a look. The sale days are on Saturday. Saturday, every car that starts with 100 is in the lot. Sunday, every car with a 200 is in the lots. The other thing to bear in mind also is you don't have to be here in person, of course. You can go and watch the whole thing being live streamed. You can register online. Go to IconicAuctioneers.com. Right, that's all done. Let's look at some cars. Right, I want to start off with this. This is lot number 134, 2010 Land Rover Defender 90 in Keswick Green. Commercial spec, very basic, but the clue is in the reg here. This was His Royal Highness Prince Charles, then now King Charles's personal car with the Duchess of Cornwall. Apparently this was used by them. It's done 24,500 miles, so not been used a huge amount. Probably their dog car, what with it being the commercial car. This has an estimate of £42,000 to £50,000, but it does come in the history file with confirmation letters to Tim Williams, the head chauffeur to the Prince of Wales. So it is a royal verified vehicle. And we all know the royal family have got a long history with Land and Range Rover cars. I don't normally like Defenders, but I think the history and the fact that it's just so bare bones, stealth wealth. The classiest Defenders are the basic ones. I stand by that. As soon as you start lathering them in shiny Magpie parts, I think they look a bit gaudy. But this is really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what it sells for. Has a seller rating of 103 out of 135 points. Lot 134. I must point out that apparently the registration number 72HRH is to be retained by the present keeper of the car and does not form part of the sale, but it could be available by separate negotiation. Okay, lot 165, 1985 BMW M635 CSi in a very unusual hue. This colour is Bahama beige with buffalo leather interior. Wow, look at that. And this was a special order car through a Cypriot BMW dealer, collected from the factory by the vendor and his father, who drove it back to the UK where it was registered. Weirdly, the mileage of this is almost identical to the ex-Royal Defender, 24,500 miles. There we go. This particular car, I don't think has been restored. It is original. It's scoring 104 out of 135 points. So of course, it's the 3.5 litre, 286 brake horsepower, M88 engine, similar to the BMW M1. I actually drove an M1 last year on the Late Break Show, which was a real bucket list thing to have ticked off. That was exciting. This looks great. And of course, manual gearbox, not auto like so many of them are, and a mobile phone holder that I've just noticed. Very, very cool. So this is the opportunity to buy a one family owned M635 CSi in low mileage, in unusual colour. Estimate here, 55 to 65,000 quid. What a thing. It looks glorious. But I want to show you this. This is a tenuous link alert. McLaren SLR. I don't want to talk about this, but I want to talk about the link from this car to that car. McLaren, designed by Gordon Murray. This might look like a Lotus. It's actually a Talbot Matra Murena. Why is it connected to that car in any way? Well, because the McLaren F1, 3 abreast seating. The Murena, 3 abreast seating. A really practical sports car with a big kind of hatchback from the 80s with flip-up headlights. 2.2 single overhead cam engine. Not a fast car, but an interesting practical car made of GRP. This particular example, lot 197, 1981 car. So this car here has been restored over time. In 2019, the bodywork was stripped and rebuilt by a TVR fiberglass specialist, surface and design, a cost over $6.5 grand. Full leather retrim of over $2,000 using lots of parts from a German mattress specialist called Simon Auto. 8,000 to 10,000 pounds, and just look, door handles, look, which makes people think it's a Lotus. But if you look in here, look, get the camera in there, look at that setup. I love the shape of the dash. I love the whole seating arrangement. I think it's a lot of fun. As someone like me who has 2 children, it would allow you to go and enjoy the car with both kids, whereas cars like my Boxster and my Smart, I can't. What do we think? This is why I love my job. I love the massive juxtaposition between all these different cars when you come to an auction like the CCA one. On the one hand, you've got a 1960 Cadillac convertible, lot 229. Not quite Ghostbusters, that was a 59, but the front is really similar. Next to a Caterham. Now, I'm going to abuse my privilege here because I know the guy that's selling this and I'm going to troll him. He's a Patreon subscriber to the Late Break Show and he's embarrassed at the fact he's had this car, Nick, has had this car for 16 years and he's done 12,000 miles in 16 years. That's offensive, Nick, especially when it's such an immaculate example of a Caterham Supersport. The Supersport name has just been released with Morgan's latest flagship car, but Caterham have been using that name for a long, long time. Lot 161. What's this? Estimate 12 to 15,000 quid, less than 13,000 miles from new, registered in 2004, so over 20 years old, but so young. If you've never driven a Caterham, it doesn't get much better in terms of just the ability, the analog sensory overload, and the steering wheel, it's about that wide. I daily drove one of these for a year without the roof on. It was amazing. I think that's going to go for a lot more than what it's guided at, 40 to 50,000 quid. I'd be really surprised, in fact, if this car stays in the UK. I've said this before, there's more mid-50s to early 60s Cadillacs in Scandinavia than anywhere else in the world. They love that era of Cadillac. And this one is the top spec, the convertible. I've got a real thing for them. I think they're wonderful. What's this? Seller rating 106 out of 135 points. 390 cubic inch V8, 325 brake horsepower. Wow. There's not many around. 1960 Series 62. Now, no auction these days seems to be complete without a Sierra Cosworth, and this is a 1988 RS 500. It is the real deal, but the mileometer reading of 812 miles is not the real deal. It has done more miles than that, and the price suggests that 50 grand to 60 grand estimate, if it does sell for that, that's significantly lower than the prices of these cars that we've seen in recent time. But it's had a bit of a peppered past. It used to have well over 500 horsepower with lots of modifications, and it's gradually been put back to stock by the owner, who's had the car, I believe, for over 20 years, but it's been in storage for the last 15. And it's been recommissioned, so it's not a numbers matching car. But if you do get it for 50 to 60 grand, we've seen these breaking 150,000 quid. There has been one that was sold for $500,000, but that was an exception, not the rule. So it's interesting to see whether this sort of condition and backstory puts people off or not. There's also another Ford over there that I want to show you, a Capri, that's had a bit of a sad backstory as well, but it could be a real bargain. There's a lot of receipts about the recommissioning of this car, and a company down in Southampton called Tremona, who is synonymous with prepping these cars for concours standards. So clearly it's been repainted and it's been restored to a really high standard, and the interior is beautiful. It really is beautiful. I always find it interesting to see whether or not this is going to affect, you know, having what was a highly modified engine of 500 plus horsepower and strut braces and things added when these cars were not valued at what they are now. Yeah, there we go, lot 148. Let's go and have a look at another Capri over here, a different Ford. It's got its pepper pots and it's got its barn find-esque dust on it. Lot 132 is a Capri 2.8 injection garage find. And this car, unfortunately, has a bit of a sad story, even though I think it could be beautiful. I'll explain what I mean. The vendor acquired this 12 years ago as a restoration project and really went to town on rebuilding the car, mechanicals and bodywork. But unfortunately, it was then stolen. The police got involved and the car was recovered successfully. And I don't think it was damaged, but it put the vendor under such huge stress. He didn't want to use the car and he locked the car away. And that's where it's been ever since, hence this dust. So now it's offered for sale. And it's had a considerable amount of time and money spent on it, with an estimate now of 8 to 10 grand, which you'd probably never ever, you'd never be able to rebuild a car on this level for that kind of money. So it's a shame it's tarnished that person's experience with the car, and obviously it's been registered as a stolen car at some point. But I hope someone can see through that, because if you're going to buy it and use it and enjoy it, it's almost immaterial. It's like buying a salvage damaged car that's non-structural. If you do it really nicely, who cares? Who really cares unless you're investing? And talking of investments, the Capri next door I want to quickly mention. So this is a 280 Brooklands, aka the last of the line of Capris. They only made a smidge over 1,000 of them. They actually couldn't sell them very easily in period. This particular car though, lot 238, this is apparently unrestored, 27,891 mile car. Wow. And significantly higher estimate than that. That's 8 to 10 grand. This is 24 to 28 grand. And it's weird how these cars in period were difficult to sell, and now they're the ones to have. This had leather. This has, I think, limited slip diff. Yeah, limited slip diff, 5-speed manual. There we go. I wonder who's going to prefer something like this to that, but I'd like to clean that up and delve deeper into the black car, signal black car. Rare, but nobody cares. But I care. This is a rare car now. Apparently there's less than 10 Austin Metro city vans left on the road, because commercial vehicles always get abused more than normal cars, so the survival rates are lower. I haven't seen one for ages. Noticed 4-speed manual. A lot of cars didn't have a 5th speed back then. This particular car, lot 177, is a bit of a survivor actually. Diamond white paintwork, and it looks like it's been repainted to a not great standard if I'm looking at it. But of course vans were often done cheaply, so if you were going to bring it up to a higher standard, you probably want to rectify some of the paint. In 1997 it had a category D insurance loss as well. Insurer decided not to repair, even though it was damaged but repairable. It's a 1988 car with a seller rating of 104 points over 135 and an estimate of 4,000 to 5,000 quid. But you know, there's a real charm to it. It's an early Metro, obviously, because of the recessed headlights, which I do particularly like. And it looks really straight, you know. I'd be inclined to probably give it a half decent machine polish and see if I could improve it a bit and just enjoy it. Festival of the Unexceptional, here we come. By the time this model of Quattro came out, this is 1990, the 20 valve, they were at the end of the line really. This was the last of the boxy ones before it went into the aero shape, the S2 shape. This car here, what, lot 223, estimated 45 to 50k, pearlescent white. I love this colour, it's one of my favourite colours. Yeah, this was registered in 1990. It's had some restoration between 2011 and 2015. So it does show signs of being an older Resto, both inside and out. It's got the Quattro diagonal script cloth, which I do very much like indeed. And I think this is a digital dash car as well, with the Audi Sport steering wheel. Only 295 of these were made in right-hand drive 20 valve, apparently. I didn't realise it was that little. I love the stocky stance and I will never tire of the homologation arches. I think they're wonderful. As you all know, this is a bucket list car for me, but probably an earlier one for me. Not an Audi, but a VW, and I must talk about this car, Lot 187. This is a Karmann Ghia from 1970, but it's a bit of a kind of shaved, smoothed, beautifully done show stance car. This has had a lot of money and time spent on it. It's got a 2.1 litre flat four, so a much bigger flat four than it normally would have had, air-cooled of course with twin Webers. 145 horsepower, which doesn't sound a lot to most people, but in the air-cooled world, that's a lot of power. 17-inch what they call smoothie style steel wheels with the chrome beauty ring, and it's on a narrowed front beam to get those wheels more inboard, which is a look that's quite desirable, and it's on air ride suspension as well, so that can go up to drive it a little bit more. Being a Karmann Ghia, it's a one-piece body, it's a handmade car, and this has been beautifully finished. It really has. In fact, it's won lots of different awards. Best VW in Europe in 2017 at VW Fest. Best in Show at Ultimate Stance 2017. Top 25 at Ultimate Dubs in 2018. Show winner at Fitted Fest in 2018. Wow. And it's been converted from left-hand drive to right-hand drive as part of this modification and resto with disc brakes all round. Wow. 40 to 50 grand estimate. Sounds high. I doubt you better build it for that kind of money. Lot 187. As someone that has an ex-Tokyo taxi and enjoys quirky Japanese stuff, this really shouted at me. I have never seen a Toyota Land Cruiser fire truck before. Obviously imported from Japan. Still got the patina and they hand-painted sign writing. What a wonderful thing, dating from 1983. Lot 193. It's done less than 2,600 kilometers. It has an MOT and it has a 4.2 straight six manual, so it will never go wrong. It's that series of Land Cruiser FJ60. What a thing, complete. Don't know what you would do with it, whether you would turn it into a barista truck or something. It's got 2 seats back here on the tender, with a huge searchlight. Goodness me, this is fantastic. I'm so excited. Estimate 8 to 10 grand. I mean, any Land Cruiser with any solid chassis of this era is well worth that, but completely unique. But if you want a Land Cruiser that's a little bit more, I don't know, usable and mainstream, go here. The white car, Lot 103. This is a real survivor. 1991 UK car. This is not a Japanese import, and it's that lovely stubby short wheelbase Land Cruiser VX 70 series turbo. So it's got a 2.4 turbo diesel, 5-speed manual with the high and low ranges, and this car looks spectacular. It's done 141,000 miles, supplied new in 1991. But it's been in Ireland a lot of its life. Interesting to see how this will go. Estimate 15 to 18 grand. We've seen the King Charles spec Defender, and there's a brace of early series Land Rovers going under the hammer. But this one at the end, 194, is a 1992 ex-Camel Trophy Defender 110-200 TDI. This car was bought directly from Land Rover by the vendor, I believe, after its 1993 Camel Trophy. And this was a medical car. Yeah, it completed the Camel Trophy in Malaysia, bought in 94 by the vendor with an original invoice that confirms it, who was a Land Rover employee. It had less than 2,000 miles on the clock, and it was subsequently used as his family car for the next 20 plus years. Comes complete with all the off-road equipment, including the safety devices cage, external and internal cage. Oh yeah, there, brilliant. Regularly serviced by the engineer vendor routinely. This is so good. I love cars that have got interesting stories. Estimate 15 to 20,000 pounds. I really like this a lot. It's got a few scars, but it's honest. But which one would you go for? This, the Royal spec one, or one of the early series cars? Choices. Fiat Strada Abarth 130TC. Find me a rarer hot hatch that survived in the UK. But also find me a hot hatch that has cooler door handles than this and cooler design seats. I'll fight you if you find another. Garage find Aston Martin V8. I really like the shape of these Astons. This one here is in the same ownership for 28 years. 50,000 original miles and largely unrestored. Apparently it needs recommissioning rather than restoring. I actually did a barn find one of these with a friend of mine called Freddie Tavares on the Late Break Show. It was a lot of fun and we did get it running. 25 to 30,000 pounds. Interesting to see whether it gets near that. I'm very fond of them though. I've got a very special car cave, car collection and interview with somebody who's famous coming up on this channel. And their first car was one of these and they talked really fondly about it. And we both agreed that it's one of the rarest cars nowadays, the Fiat Uno Turbo Series 1. This one here is really immaculate. 47,000 miles from new. It does look exceptional. The interior is just like chef's kiss. Apparently, there's less than 20 of these left in the UK, the Series 1 cars. I can't believe it, but what a thing. And this is a 1988 model when they allegedly would put a 5-speed manual which had a more durable diff and improved gear change linkage in it. Wow, estimate 20 to 25 grand. The nostalgia is strong in these. And there's also another hot hatch of this size, same era, over there, with a turbo that everybody goes wild for. Follow me. Lot 183, Renault 5 GT Turbo Raider. You can tell it's the Raider edition, which is I think the run-out model because of this colour. Special blue and colour-coded correct wheels with the diamond cut silver outer rim. These things are great and the values of GT Turbos are climbing and climbing, especially for cars that are original. This particular car has been owned for 10 years now and subject to quite a lot of work, including a full engine rebuild 2,500 miles ago. I'm abusing my privilege here because I know the guy that owns this car because we featured his car cave quite early on in the channel's life, a chap called Mark Holland. Lovely, lovely man. Hi, Mark. He's spent between 18 and 20 grand going through this thing, and it is a really delightful example. And I think the Raider was always a little bit more desirable than the other cars because of it having a special colour and being the run-out car. So yeah, lots and lots have been done to this. Exterior was repainted a decade ago. Wheels were also refurbished. Like I say, 2,500 miles ago. Engine rebuild, including a turbo and a radiator. So lots. All you got to do really is sort of clean it, check the fluids and use it. That's what I would do. Interesting to see if it goes beyond 15 to 20 grand estimate. I'm going to say it will. It's done 85,000 miles. We'll see. We'll see. Boxster. Back in 2008, the owner of this car, Lot 235, 1990 E30 BMW, it started life as a 316 injection, but it's been turned into a track car back then at great expense, as you would do for any kind of track car. It's now got a 2.5 litre M20B 25 6-cylinder with a 272 Schrick cam, 5-speed, 325 sport shift gearbox, Bilstein B8 sport dampers and Eibach springs. The build spec apparently reads to 4 sheets of paper. It's got M3 side skirts, but it's not got M3 arches. But it really caught my attention because of the potential price, estimate 12 to 15k. And knowing how much fun these cars are to drive on track because they're so slim and agile and quite affordable as a track car, I would be really, really interested to see this and what this goes for. Another BMW of note, there's quite a few BMWs in this sale, but there's one that most people would probably walk straight past, and it's that car behind, Lot 207. It's a 1957 BMW 502, 3.2 V8, beautiful, rare. Apparently there's only, how many are left in the UK? 12. There's a dozen of those cars in right-hand drive left. And that car's been restored. And the estimate is the same as this nearly. Totally different. Not a BMW you'd expect to see, but fabulous. Look at the lines on it. Not a Boxster, but I thought it was. Turbo, 5-speed, rubber boot spoiler. Of course it's an 80s Saab 900 Turbo. This is Lot 227. I've never owned a Saab 900 Turbo and I've always wanted to, and I know the build quality is exceptional and I miss Saab as a brand dearly. But this car is interesting because this car was owned by the same person for 30 years and then the previous vendor bought it off them and daily drove it because it was ULEZ compliant for about 5 years. We are looking at what is largely an unrestored survivor car. How many miles has it done? I think it's done 80 something thousand miles. Yeah, 84,000 miles with an estimate of 12 to 15 grand, which I'd be really interested to see if it goes beyond that, because to find one of these is hard. Look at that kind of quilted corduroy interior, of course, aero style wraparound windscreen, and that cutout, that weird sill cutout. I remember seeing these as a kid thinking that they looked so, I don't know, executive and special with the wipers on the headlights. Yeah, if you were looking for one that hasn't been restored, that has got a few marks and weathering on it, honest weathering, it'd probably be quite hard to do. So I bet you that will end up selling more than that. The seller rating is 110 out of 135. 2 litre, 143 horsepower, finished in cherry red. Hang on, I've just noticed the back seats are a different fabric to the front. These are original accessory seat covers on top of the original seats. So the original seats are either knackered or perfect. I bet they're perfect. Tape player, it's so nice. And the durability of these things were phenomenal. So actually, 84,000 miles is actually not a lot of miles. Boxster. 2005 Mitsubishi EVO 9 Lancer. But it's not as it seems. Come round to the back. This is one of only apparently 1,396 manual gearbox wagons, Japanese market only. So it's an EVO family version. And this particular car's done 50,000 miles and it's had recent paint correction. It was imported in 2020. Look how practical that is. And it's close to immaculate, I would say. It really is. These had 276 horsepower from the factory, which is well regarded as being conservative. 6-speed, like I said, with front limited slip diff, active center diff, rear limited slip diff. And in the last 1,000 miles, it's had a clutch, timing belt, wheel refurbishment, and new tyres and ceramic coating. What a lovely thing. And kind of stealth. Really like this. So that concludes my whistle-stop tour of the CCA auctions operated by Iconic Auctioneers. Remember, I'm sorry I can't look at every car in this. Come here on the day that you're watching this, if it's Friday when this video is released, the 21st, that's viewing day. Register online if you want to. Turn up, buy the catalogue, which admits 2 people. The sale starts at 12 midday on the Saturday and on the Sunday. On the Saturday, everything that's 100 and something, that's when that goes under the hammer. Sunday, everything that starts with 200 and something goes under the hammer. Huge array of cars, I think 170 lots. If you haven't already subscribed to the Late Break Show, I'd love you to subscribe. And if you buy one of these cars, let me know what you've bought.